The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
This is News Talk.
Welcome along, Joe Molloy with you on this Tuesday evening. So Gab McCarthy will talk to us about the life and times of Silvio Berlusconi. John Gonzalez with us as the Denver Nuggets win the NBA championship for the first time in the franchise's history. And what's more, Nikola Jokic announces himself as the best player in the league and soon to be in the conversation for best of all time. Plus, a slight tangent, gets a fourth outing in a row. We're basically like Limerick. 5 in a row next week, but we're only thinking about tonight. One game at a time. Michael McCarthy, hello.
Hi, Joe.
Richie McCormack, hello.
Gents, how are you?
Very well. Basically like Limerick, Mick. Going again. Can't see this.
Yeah. The slight tangent. Totally haven't run out of things to talk about. We haven't gone for any John Kiley-esque lineup changes or anything like that to keep things fresh and to make sure that everybody's staying hungry and alert and everything else. So let's see how it plays out. Who's a better manager here, John Kiley or whoever it is that runs the show? Not quite sure.
Well, that'd be you, would it?
Debatable.
We have Gab McCarthy on the way after 9 talking Silvio Berlusconi, who has passed away at the age of 86. The sporting link being obvious, AC Milan owner for 30 plus years, 5 European Cups under his reign, and of course a whole lot more than that. I had underestimated just how corrupt up to his eyeballs Berlusconi was.
So he was always on trial for something, wasn't he?
Fingers to his toes.
You sort of know. I mean, it's just obvious.
Yeah.
But then I think what was so stunning is that in 20 years, Berlusconi made 2,500 court appearances. He was
how is that even possible?
Subject to 106 trials in 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
There's a quote from him that said, for basically every weekend of his life, it was spent with lawyers prepping for court on the Monday, as well as running a country, a football team and a media conglomerate.
Wow. Busy life.
Only one conviction.
There's a lot in. Oh my God. Juries of his peers, I'd imagine.
He was so close to. I've never tested positive.
Yeah.
So close.
I've never been relegated.
Yeah, tax fraud conviction in 2012. At that stage, he was too old to go to prison, so he did community service where he sang for people in nursing homes. He would have been a similar age to them, but he just had more verve.
That's how he started as well.
Yeah,
that's
good singer. Apparently,
how he started. Yeah, he was a singer on cruise ships.
That's right.
Apparently, as a younger man, corrupt as you say, from his fingers to his toes, and a malignant influence on pretty much every sphere of life that he touched.
But he was a character, Richie.
But I was just going to say, but what a life, though. There isn't a life lived to that scale that he can really think of in modern terms that touches so many elements, and all of them at the peak of what he did. It's just incredible to try and get your head around. And the defending case against him will always be that Milan side of the late 80s, early 90s. I was going through team photos yesterday when the news broke, and I think it was one landed on 91, 92, and we talk about Manchester City squad as being the most in-depth quality from 1 to 11, and even the subs bench. The early 90s Milan squads were obscene in terms of the quality that he had amassed there. But again, you just can't ignore the fact that he was a slimy, corrupt individual.
Yeah. Well, even just reading various pieces about his life, there's definitely a sense from, I'd say the majority, that he pretty much reopened the door for fascism, for neo-fascism in Italian politics by just making deals with whoever you need to make deals with.
That's it, yeah. Not out of any kind of
there's no ideology,
but more out of a sort of a self-preservation and not caring about the consequences.
How do I need to form a coalition?
Yeah.
You far right dudes, in you come. And so that's normalised it, and that's one of his really grim political legacies. So that does loom large. But on the Milan ownership, and Gab will explain later on, it does seem as if Berlusconi was unbelievably ahead of his time in almost every area when it came to football. So in the the commercial aspect, he was the first guy who wanted names on the back of jerseys. He was the first really to start talking about a European Super League in a big way. This is so obviously the future. He was the first to do world tours and pre-season tours, and they even had their own competition in Milan for a time, one of the summers. But it wasn't just the commercial wing. Unbelievably innovative in terms of preparing a team. Richie mentions the squad depth. That was a big part of his thinking. Innovative when it came to sports science. The Milan lab obviously grew out of that. Psychologists, all of these things. He bought, and Gab will explain more, he also, because I think his net worth is about 7 billion, he bought a rugby team and a hockey team and one other sport which escapes me now, and he got Capello to manage those teams for a while.
Wow.
On the assumption that there could be lots learned from other sports, tactically, preparation-wise, and otherwise. So Capello managed a rugby team for a while at Berlusconi's asking, because I owned the rugby team as well. So it does seem for that period before he became Prime Minister in 1994, and he bought Milan in 86, before the 106 trial started, and he was very focused on Milan. He was kind of, did a hell of a job. He was ahead of the football world on every
He was ahead
front.
of the media. He was ahead of the media world. Looking how he made a lot of his money. It was in property initially, and then he transferred into providing TV, almost closed circuit, to the apartment blocks that he built himself. So that, for the time, especially in a country like Italy, is miles ahead of what people in the UK and particularly in the US were doing. And he was able to build his fortune on that and create networks. Among the first independent networks, I think, in Italy in terms of television, and obviously gain the money that would go along with that and feed it back into the football team. So he was corrupt, but an incredible forward thinker.
Well, indeed. And on the TV front, now you'll be surprised to hear this, Richie, he bent some rules here as well.
No, he was involved in piracy as well on TV, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah. All the neighbouring countries, he took in some of their good stuff. But in effect, as a last point in Berlusconi, because Gab McCarthy's on later, so I think we're just a pale imitation. But the law at the time where he was getting into media was there is no commercial national television. So it's very much state-run at national level. At local level, there's an allowance for commercial stations. So he slowly but surely, starting off in Milan, bought local stations around the country. Pretty soon owned most, if not all, of the local stations around the country, and showed exactly the same thing at exactly the same time on every local station around the country, and then made an absolute fortune out of selling advertising in that way.
That's so interesting. So they became de facto national.
Yeah,
it's funny. There's a lot of that going on in America with news at the moment. It's not commercial. It's more that it's spreading certain ideologies, but it's in the same idea, whereas local news is run by the same company constantly, and suddenly your local channel that you've been watching the news on all your life has right-wing news every night. And imagine it just shows you everything you can think of has sort of already been done by Berlusconi. The football, can I just quickly go back to football for a sec before we finish? It is interesting that you say he became Prime Minister in 94 for the first time, and I don't think I realised that, because think of the culmination of that great Milan team was their 4-0 win over Barcelona in the Champions League final in 94. They were never quite the same again. Obviously they lost to Ajax the following year, and then they were gone for a while, and they were never great again, I would say, and that was, I'd imagine running the country into the ground probably had something to do with the fact that if he was so involved and so innovative, they might have missed him as being such a big part of it. But that Milan team that Richie's talking about, I tweeted when Teddy McCarthy died last week, that was my first two sporting heroes I can remember were Teddy McCarthy and Marco Van Basten, and that's because I had a Van Basten jersey with his name on it, Joe. Even though I don't know if it was I don't think they were doing it at the time, but obviously they were selling the knockoffs or whatever, but had that jersey, and I love that Milan team. That's the first football team I fell in love with, and it's obvious why. You know what I mean? They were just so exceptional. It's remarkable to think that this guy, who, as Richie said, had a malignant probably influence overall on the world, brought such beauty to the football world in many ways. Lots of nice tributes for him as well. Described as a great statesman and visionary, and also dear person and true friend, said the Russian embassy and Vladimir Putin. So, I was wondering where you were going with that.
There is that. He's not all bad. We should get moving on then before the clock does come against us. Newsround is brought to you with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night edition is available now. So the Kylian Mbappe situation, very interesting.
Yeah, he's described rumours linking him with a move to Real Madrid this summer as lies. The 24-year-old has opted not to renew his current deal at Paris Saint-Germain, informing the club of such this week, meaning he can leave for free next summer. But in response to a tweet from Le Parisien claiming he could join Real this summer, Mbappe said that was untrue and that he was happy to remain at PSG for next season.
Like, at what point do we say Mbappe has just wasted the last 3 years? 3 years, certainly, if not more, of his career.
We're just not seeing him. Like, you know, there's something almost throwback about it in a way, isn't there? Like, you know, it's like you see him at a World Cup or whatever, or in the Champions League quarter-final.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm never going to watch Paris Saint-Germain in like Liga, no matter who's in that league, you know what I mean?
I had the experience pre-World Cup when Haaland arrived and was just doing his thing at City of saying, well, he's obviously the best player in the world. And then during the World Cup I said, oh, sorry, it's actually Mbappe. And now the memory of that has faded and I'm swinging back towards Haaland. It's just a complete waste. I understand the logic of hanging on, and I don't know, I guess he's going to bag an extra 200 million personally for leaving on a free. But then you're 25. I mean, he's really dragged this out.
Yeah, oh no, it's again, like, I mean, he's got a long career ahead of him, and it's not as if he's achieving, well, I suppose.
Does he have a long, like, he's not going to be as good in his 30s?
Yeah, because he's such a speed merchant, no, it is fascinating. I would like him to move, I have to say. But to Real Madrid is such a funny one to me, because I'm hearing this and it's like, Jesus Christ, every June I've ever sat in here, it's like Real Madrid are putting out the checkbook for the best player in the world. It's like, it's this incredible thing that the Premier League is taking over, and we can consistently talk about that. But the one constant in football is the fact that Real Madrid will always sign 3 of the biggest players in the world every summer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, right, they've just got Jude Bellingham, right, that's their future sorted. I was like, what we do now? We'll go out and buy Mbappe as well while we're at it, you know. Harry Kane. What's Harry Kane thinking right now? So 1 year left in his contract. Double check that. 1 year left. He's into his final year. He can also leave on a free next year, or he can go this year. So it's a case of whether Levy wants to cash in. The Sunday Times at the weekend said that the move to Manchester United is pretty much off. Done. Levy's shown zero interest or inclination to negotiate, which of course could be a negotiating tactic, I grant you, but that's where we are. Very Roman Roy of you.
Yes, indeed. See, I know all the tricks. You and
Daniel Levy. I don't know, but I think it's probably leaning for more towards him staying. I think this time 2 years ago, through back channels, we very much knew how Harry Kane felt. Whereas it doesn't seem as obvious this time. I wonder, is he just content to stay and then he can go to Manchester United? Spurs can't do anything about it. Whereas Spurs have his destiny in their hands at the moment, really, if he is to leave.
It depends, I suppose, as well, where Real Madrid might want to play Mbappe. By his own admission, he prefers being on the left.
He said it was lies, so.
Well, okay.
I don't know,
Again, I see through some of this stuff, Mick. Don't worry about me. So, like, he has said by his own admission he preferred playing on the left-hand side. One wouldn't be shocked if Vinicius Jr. wants the hell out of there. That's a straight swap. And so they still have a Benzema-sized hole for Harry Kane. So it's not necessarily off. McCarthy and Berlusconi. Now, that is brilliant to hear, says David in Ashburn. Yes, it's on the way after 9 o'clock. Rich, there is news for, Hero from the game against Scotland.
Yeah, a couple of Irish players securing their futures today. Republic of Ireland striker Amber Barrett has a new club. She's signed for Standard Liège, having spent the past 4 seasons in Germany. Meanwhile, Barrett's international teammate Niamh Fahey has signed a contract extension at Liverpool. Fahey is, of course, Liverpool's captain and has made 106 appearances for the club to date. Meanwhile, Liverpool's men's side today confirming that fullback Calvin Ramsey is going to spend next season on loan at Preston.
Your next story, kind of low-key build-up in some ways. We are 3 days out from, in many respects, the defining game of potentially Stephen Kenny's year.
Yeah, and Mark Travers is the only injury concern for Stephen Kenny ahead of their trip to Athens. The Bournemouth goalkeeper missed this morning's training session in Turkey due to illness. The Ireland squad will travel to Greece tomorrow ahead of Friday's Euro 2024 qualifier.
Just check the temperature in Athens. Care to guess?
28.
23.
Now at this time of evening, though.
Yeah, so it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is when we'll be playing, I suppose.
Sure, it's hotter here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is a cool weather camp for the Irish.
Does this have sticky 1-1 draw written all over it?
Oh, I don't know. Like, we need to win, but I don't think we've any right to expect to win.
Yes.
You know, so I'm so wary of it. I've hated this match for everything about it since the fixtures were posted. It's the wrong time of year in loads of different ways. More like does anyone remember like the last, like it's about 6 months since most of these lads have played a game. The championship has been over, it feels like next season. Do you know what I mean? It's weird to even think that there's still more football to happen this year.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I do have a memory of Josh Cullen on a balcony lifting a Player of the Year trophy, what feels about 3 months ago.
Yeah. Oh, it's a long time. Like, I mean, Dan was talking about it in here. Like, you know, the majority of championship players that weren't in the playoffs, you know, and that includes really important players like John Egan and Josh Cullen, who got promoted, have been finished for a long time. And also those teams got promoted early, which means that they haven't even had anything to play for another month on top of that as well, you know. So yeah, that plus the fact that it's a summer, plus it's a away game, must win against a team who could be good for all we know. That's the other thing about Greece. You know, they've been known to come out of the doldrums pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it with Dan on tomorrow's show in a bit more depth. They're flying from Turkey to Athens today, I think.
Possibly, yeah. I know they've been training in Turkey.
Yeah. John on YouTube, lads, the sun is out. A slight tangents on the way at 8 o'clock. The life, he says.
Oh yeah, out the back, sipping a
beverage,
apple flavoured beverage, possibly. Yeah.
Craig and Cork, lads, a possible tangent topic. Manchester United fan, mighty conflicted about this probable Qatar takeover. But when you
can't.
Sorry, we're not talking about this. So sick of it. He says though, but when you see Mbappe being linked, God Almighty, it's so exciting. I don't know what to think really. I think you've answered the question, Craig.
Oh, I have a feeling you'll get over it.
Yeah, that'd be a real tester for any Manchester United misgivings. Imagine the fans out there protesting, Richie, and then out walks I don't know, whoever talks to the fans now and says, "We've just signed Mbappe."
Yeah, that's all dependent on the Glazers not sending another deadline. I think they're 16th for new bids from Mr. Radcliffe and Sheikh Jassim in the next couple of weeks. I can't think of a saga process that have been any more disconnected with than that. It's just it's ridiculously tedious at this stage, and I'd say it's probably the frustration of United fans because they want some clarity going into the transfer window, and the best that they've been linked with so far is Mason Mount.
But it's also United fans like making out that, you know, oh, it's terror, like Qatar and all that. It's not great, but like you don't understand what the Glazers have done to us in the same way as like Newcastle fans were like that about Mike Ashley. It's literally the exact same, you know. It's like you don't really understand this, you know. They're the bad guys, you know. Come on, give me a break. I wasn't going to curse everybody. This is an unfortunate sound.
Lord knows we talked about it all way too much. Next story then. So Armagh are pushing hard here.
Yeah, they're attempting to get Rian O'Neill cleared to play in Sunday's football championship clash with Galway. The Crossmaglen forward was shown a red card in the recent Group 2 defeat to Tyrone after his knee appeared to make contact with the head of Cormac Quinn. Armagh, of course, pleaded innocence, and they'll put their case tonight to the CCCC.
I didn't see this incident. I missed it. Like with everything.
So Richie might know more than I do, but for me, I did see the incident, and like it looks bad, but I will say he might get off because it's not the greatest camera shot of all time. It's quite distant, and maybe they won't be able to, you know, there'll be some deniability. But I mean, if he did what he looks like he did, then it was a red card and he deserves to be banned, you know. So I don't know. People are going to argue it both ways.
How do they decide if he meant it?
Well, maybe he'll say that the camera is too far away and it's deceptive, and actually what happened was I was just getting my balance back and my knee happened to go and there was no force or whatever.
Fair enough. Texting lads, 7 years ago since Wes against Sweden.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I retweeted it earlier.
Great day. Should have won though.
What a great finish.
Classic Ireland result.
Like a great finish.
Seamus Coleman, very underrated part of that goal, obviously, as well, you know. But Wes, oh my God.
I'm watching it here on my Twitter feed. Yeah, Coleman beats a man twice. And then it's just so clean.
Yeah.
You know?
But he also he was the only Irish player that, like, you trusted had the composure for that moment as well, you know. Nothing was ever too big for him.
Yeah.
God, I miss Wes.
Yeah, it was a real...
I don't miss arguing whether he should be in the team constantly either.
It was so deserved. I mean, it's got to be worth 20 caps. You would trade 20 caps against, Georgia in October for that moment. So that makes me feel better about his overall tally, which is still a disgrace. The PG
venom in that was up there.
It is though. It's one of the great frustrations I'd have over the last however many years in Irish sport. I don't want to get into it again. We're all in agreement on that.
He was born 10 years too early.
Yeah,
is the truth,
and
isn't
in
it?
the wrong country. Banana Republic. It should have been Spanish. Jay Monaghan's been doing his best, Richie, to, well, I don't know what really.
This guy again. This is a news round full of characters I don't care to talk about.
Yeah, it's ruining. Imagine you're out trying to have a drink in the back garden listening to all this.
Monaghan, Berlusconi.
Yeah. Keep listening, obviously.
Qatar, yeah. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monaghan claims a lack of support from US lawmakers forced the tour into the arms of Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. He's been responding to questioning from US Senator Richard Blumenthal, who's written to both Monaghan and his LIV equivalent Greg Norman. Senator Blumenthal says the Saudi buyout of men's golf raises serious questions regarding the Saudi government's involvement. In response, Monaghan claims the PGA Tour were left to fend off the PIF on their own due to America's complex geopolitical alliance with Saudi Arabia.
Well, there's nothing complex about it. What did he want
money?
The government to do?
Money?
In terms of fighting against LIV in the first place.
Yeah, it's a free market.
Knows,
Like they can't just step in and say no.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe there's some sort of protection you can have for sports governing bodies, but I don't see how that would stand up in any court.
Yeah, one of the great tweets when all this broke last week was from Chris Murphy, who's a Democratic senator.
Yeah.
And he said, it's so weird. PGA officials, he doesn't say if it was Jay Monaghan or not, but I'm presuming. PGA officials were in my office just months ago talking about how the Saudis' human rights record should disqualify them from having a stake in major American sport. I guess maybe their concerns weren't really about human rights, which the world jumped on fairly quickly and loved, yeah. So Greg Norman was at this as well, Rich.
He's back.
Well, it was basically Blumenthal has written to both parties in an official capacity because he heads one of the subcommittees that would obviously take care of questionable dealings like that that would take place in US oil. Yeah. So he's looked for responses from both, and I think Politico got hold of Monaghan's letter to Senator Blumenthal and they recounted the contents of it there today. I'd be interested to hear what Norman's response is like, if there is one at all, or if he is actually still employed, because that's been a fairly quiet marker from LIV since this all broke last week. Monaghan interestingly claiming that, again, that this isn't a merger, that PIF are a minority investor in what is a larger group. But I think the press release that everybody got last week was that they're merging.
I think it said the word merge, yeah.
It did, yeah, 100% said the word merger, and yet he's claiming to all and sundry and to his heads of state that it's not necessarily so. So
the more I read about it, the more I listen to people in the know, it's a mess. They don't actually know what it is. I think the sense is they were rumbled and have gone early with this because it was about to break, so they don't know what they're doing. Like, it's back of a
packet.
Pretty much, yeah. Meanwhile, ladies golf,
not untouched by all this, yeah. Leona Maguire is to play at the Saudi-funded Aramco Team Series next month in London. The tournament, again funded by the Public Investment Fund. The Cavan golfer and world number 4 Nelly Korda are two of the headline golfers booked to play the team event at the Centurion Club. Maguire has participated in Saudi Arabia this year and at a PIF-funded event in New York last year.
In many ways, we talked about this on the show, and we've pointed out, like, if you're going to criticise the male players, then you have to criticise the female players, Leona Maguire included, if your criticism is that they shouldn't have anything to do with Saudi money. Ladies golf has been pretty much bought by Aramco for several years now. Yeah. And ladies golf is in no position to turn down money, is their predicament. So it's been an easy takeover on that front.
I don't have a strong take on this, but there is a difference, right, between the Saudi Investment Fund hosting a tournament and them owning the sport or owning a football club, as the case may be. You know what I mean? There's just a very different thing, because the Saudi Investment Fund, as we know, is Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So, states shouldn't own, clubs or governing bodies, etc. But I don't know if you can make that case for them, hosting tournaments or whatever, if, again, as Pádraig Harrington would point out, as many would point out, states all over the world do business with them, and there's so much of them wrapped up in every basically Western economy, so I that's not to say it's excusable or not excusable. I just do feel like that they're apples and oranges.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so sick of talking about it. Sorry.
Yeah, as am I.
US Open's on this week. I was looking at Los Angeles Country Club where this is on. It's the first time.
Oh, it's a West Coast one.
Oh,
Yeah,
They
it
finished
is.
too late on the Sunday night.
I'd say you'd be looking
Finish
at,
too late bloody every night, Mick.
you'd be looking at 2 or 3 a.m. I'd say, maybe a bit earlier on the Sunday, but it's not good. It's not good. But I was looking Los Angeles Country Club, which is right in the heart of like. I mean, you'll see the skyscrapers in the background. I mean, it must be some of the most expensive real estate a golf club is on. I think the Playboy Mansion is right beside the 14 tee. Like it's weird. So there's just a lot going on around the area. But it is an amazing course. Like, I'd be super excited about this. It's going to be a great tournament. We have the groupings.
Yeah, we do. And Rory McIlroy has been grouped with the PGA Championship winner Brooks Koepka and Hideki Matsuyama for the first 2 rounds of the US Open. They'll be among the later starters at the Los Angeles Country Club on Thursday, teeing off just before 10 p.m. Irish time. Shane Lowry, meanwhile, is partnered by Tommy Fleetwood and Justin Thomas for the first 2 rounds, and Seamus Power will play with Ryan Fox and the Belfast amateur Matt McLean.
Give us a last story or two, Rich.
Ireland's cricketers began their World Cup qualifier preparations with a win today. Harry Tector's knock of 149 from just 123 deliveries helped them beat the USA in Bulawayo by 5 wickets. Next up for Ireland, a meeting with the Netherlands on Thursday, and tying in with an element of the show later, Denver Nuggets won the NBA championship for the very first time last night. They beat Miami Heat 94 points to 89 in Game 5 of the finals, clinching a 4-1 series victory, and Nikola Jokic scored 28 points, earning the finals MVP trophy.
What happens when the Saudis come for Golf Weekly, Joe? Will you be the last angry man?
Joel me in like Flynn.
Very fair question. It is a conversation we've had on Golf Weekly several times. Like, if anyone came and offered you life-changing money, you'd be a complete hypocrite and think about it. It's just the reality. Everybody would have their price. There's no point pretending otherwise. Like, it'd be really naive and disingenuous to say, well, look at these sports people, aren't they terrible? And not pretend if someone said, we'll give you a 5-year deal. Richie, we're going to offer you $2 million a year to come and commentate on the new golf league. 5-year deal, tax-free. Like,
Richie, boy.
It's not even a conversation.
It's not.
Boy, are those Canyoneros roomy, Richie.
once
He drove a dump truck of money up to my house.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's-
made of stone.
It's not a conversation. It's not a conversation. And we even, but to be fair, and I think it does apply to the ladies' golf in particular, but we would have said it about a lot of the male golfers going over to play on LIV or on even the Saudi Open before that. If you're like run-of-the-mill tour pro, thinking about the next 40, 50 years of your life, and it's life-changing money, like, who's anyone to say you're a disgrace, So
There is an element where we always do blame the kind of like the person at the bottom, as opposed to like Tom Monaghan types, as opposed to the person who's going to, like, the system is the system.
Yeah, but even Jay Monaghan had no choice ultimately. It was do it now or do it later.
No, fine, but the people who are like inviting, Saudis into the entire thing, maybe it's states, and then it's like, right, well, you don't take their money, but this is the system we live in, So.
Yeah, I know, but then, like, where do you draw the line? Are you going to pay them for their oil? Do you like that heating in your house?
Not right now.
I'm saying it's hopeless, everyone. That's all I'm saying.
We got to move past oil, Joe.
Well, that's true. That's true.
We got to build wind farms with our. I was listening to that this morning. We got to use our massive budget surplus and build the greatest wind farms in the world. That's be self-sufficient.
Yeah. Well, the Saudis are trying to move past oil. That's what all this is about as well. I've got to move on. Honestly, I'm boring myself. It's just the worst.
And what better way to heat the world than golf?
Let's talk about Jokic.
Yes, NBA chat is on the way. Richie, thank you.
Nice and lads.
Michael, thanks a million.
Thanks.